So what is really going on is my question.
There's a lot of confusion, a massive amount of people. There's a disease that kills some folks, and there's a disease that we, in the beginning stages of this pandemic, thought was going to be far more severe than it turned out to be, and they never adjusted. That's the problem. The problem is it's still not good. You know, you don't want to catch COVID, but the vast majority of people who get it will be fine. 78% of the people that are hospitalized are obese. The obese people have a real hard time with it. There's 6% of the people who died from COVID only had COVID. The other
Can you repeat that number?
6%.
One more time.
6% of the people who died from COVID only had COVID. The other 94% had an average of 2.6 comorbidities. So almost 3, more than 2.5 comorbidities, meaning like obesity.
First thing I want to point out is the or, overweight or obese. The second thing that is key is a comparison group. About 42% of the US population is considered obese, and that should really surprise you as to how high it is and what type of measuring tool they're using. Plus, the right comparison is overweight or obese again, which is 73 to 74%. Not much different from the actual 78% should be the headline. The metric they use for measurement is simply BMI, using height and weight. Not body fat percentage at all, which is what many expect when thinking obesity, like a mobility scooter riding person. Muscle weighs more than fat, and if you are a male that does resistance training, congratulations, you are probably overweight. And if you do it very often, congratulations again, you are probably considered obese. Here's Joe Rogan, just barely in the obese camp, and needs to get taller or lose some weight to get out of it. If he lost 40, that is right, 40 pounds, which of pure fat would be impossible because he does not even have 20% body fat to lose, he would still just barely be considered overweight by BMI standards. Let that sink in. He would be dead of starvation and be considered overweight by the standard.
All right, listen up, everybody. I have something to tell you. I'm not quite sure how to say this. I'm fat. Let me give you a minute to absorb that. That's the way it is. It's nobody's fault. Meg.
Who ran this type of study and think this is a good statistic? Oh, that's right, the CDC. The group that annoyingly sources themselves at the bottom of every COVID video because they are the most trusted. My guess, which yours is as good as mine, is the CDC knows our definition of obesity is bad for the disease and not the one they measure, which is BMI. But they don't keep track of the good one, so they use this bad one to almost fake this study to show that obesity is bad, come to the conclusion that should be no conclusion at all, skew it into saying it's bad. But that's just my guess. The whole 6% comorbidities, that is pretty much what we would expect because a huge proportion of people are either going to be overweight by this metric or be in the elderly camp. Given that perfectly healthy people like Joe Rogan would have at least one comorbidity, it is no surprise that this statistic is so drastic just by you listening to it because you have a different picture of obesity than what the CDC uses. Remember next time somebody gives you a study from the CDC.
The vast majority of people who get it will be fine. 78% of the people that are hospitalized are obese. The obese people have a real hard time with it. There's 6% of the people who died from COVID only had COVID. The other
Can you repeat that number?
6%.
One more time.
6% of the people who died from COVID only had COVID. The other 94% had an average of 2.6 comorbidities. So almost 3, more than 2.5 comorbidities, meaning like obesity,